There you go. Okay. So we're gonna start with the initial prayer. So let's take a deep breath, calm our thoughts, our mind, our heart. Uh, Bring all the good vibration to this lecture, bringing all these good thoughts that you can send to everyone all over the world, sending all the love, all the faith that God and our brother Jesus taught us, and so we can rely on them and make us stronger for our day, for our days, to make everyone in this world having more compassion for each other, and always ask for them that we'll be able to see everyone and everything through their eyes. So with that, we can make a better environment, not only for us, but for the future too. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, to be listening. The words we'll be sharing. Thank you for the spiritual friends that are here supporting us, and for the spiritual friends that are in need, so then you can send their remedies. And we can start. Thank you. And so be it. All right. So today we're gonna start talking about chapter 20, on the chapter 23rd, that is about strange morals. And is a different chapter because when you start reading this chapter, you get yourself a little bit scared with the words that is in there, because it starts with whoever doesn't hate his father and mother. So Jesus' words was, if anyone comes to me but does not hate his father and mother, his wife and children, and his brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. So if you read that, you think it's a little bit strange. That's why the chapter is called The Strange Morals, because actually knowing all Jesus' teachings, you know for sure that is not exactly what Jesus was trying to bring to us. It was trying to teach us. So basically, first consideration you have to put at this chapter, it's that we have to consider the language of that time. In a gospel, it says a lot that they use the Hebrew language as communication, because of that's their language of their country. But also not only Hebrew, but Jesus not only spoke Hebrew, but he spoke Aramaic, and Aramaic is way older than Hebrew. And these old languages, we have to have in mind that it's very hard to find translations for the words they use. A lot of words, they have a same meaning, or different, one word, there's a different meaning for a lot of things. And that happened a lot with the Aramaic, then went to Hebrew. That was the after language, which was a little bit more complete, but was still not a lot of words could be translated to our language nowadays. And what I basically conclude about this part of this chapter, there are the three first parts of this chapter. It's that not only that we cannot be based exactly what is written in the Gospels, but as I was watching some of the lectures, it says any kind of studying we are doing, we cannot be based only on one book. We always have to do researches. It doesn't mean that you don't believe or you're going against the idea. It means that you it's not because you're not agreeing with everything means you don't believe. The only thing is you have to look for everything so then it makes sense, right? So if you read something like that I just read, sorry, basically goes contradictory to everything that Jesus was trying to teach. How come he says that you have to hate your father and mother, your brother and sister? That doesn't go with his whole teaching so far, right? And you're basically almost in the end of the book. And then how come he taught so many good things, so many love words and everything, and now he just say that no, you if you don't believe me, like for you to believe me you have to hate your mother, father, sister and sister. It doesn't really make sense, right? So we have to remember that some words could be some misunderstood, and because of that we always have to look for look and research for other books and everything, so then things can make sense. Also, at the end of these three parts, Allan Kardec also put when he was writing the books, he asked for help for teachers of Hebrew language. So then he was able not only to, with the Spirit's help, but also with a person that was professional on the language to help to interpret exactly what Jesus was trying to say with that. And not only that, we have to remember there wasn't Jesus writing the gospel, but his disciples, right? And on Kardec analyzes, certain words spoken by Christ make a strange contrast with, wait a second, contrast that one instinctively rejects their literal meaning. Like I said, how can his words so far being so nice and pretty and his teaching so nice if he's teaching right now? So we have to put everything on the analysis. So then we conclude that for sure when Luke wrote that about hating father and mother, there was something between lines. On a Kardec's discussion about Jesus, about what Jesus said, he says, it was written after his death, so he wasn't there to say exactly what he said. It was repeated in subsequent copies, so there was a lot of copies till then finally they put in the whole book. Oops. And he didn't write anything himself. And the original meaning may have suffered an alteration in passing from one language to another. We always mention that, I think since in the beginning of being studying, we always try to, two things that you always mention about his teachings is, first, you cannot forget about the languages and the transformations and different translations you've been going through. Also, Kardec was French language, so then which was translated to English and then Portuguese, and some words we know, being Portuguese speakers, like Brazilians, we know that some things it's really hard to translate from English. Can you imagine from a old language that there's not a lot of words on their vocabulary, so a lot of words there's different meanings. It depends of the context, so that's why you have to remember that. And the peculiarity of the language of that time is many words had a lot of different meanings. Some suffer some variation. Some of it lost their value, or meaning some words not even exist anymore. You cannot even use it anymore because nobody will know. and many words lost meaning through the centuries. Like all the languages, we know like that our own language that happened a lot. A lot of words in Portuguese we not you even use it anymore because people would not understand. Even like words that our grandparents used to say to us, you never heard anymore people saying nowadays. Like the first example, when he brings up from the Genesis, it says, the word was made in 6 days. So what does that mean? Like if you explain that. In Genesis, that designates the phases of creation, and which also served to express a given period of time in the diurnal rotation. It's not that the whole world and like was created exactly on 6 days. So you have to be behind that, behind the phrase, there's always a contest. And then like for you to conclude the contest, you have to do researches, you have to go through all what you have to go through all the happenings at that time. The second example is, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. If you read that, like it's gonna be like almost like impossible to think that a camel can go through a needle, right? Because it's a horse and there's a needle. That's impossible that to happen. So means the same applies to the word that mean neither. Oops, people, I'm sorry. What did I? Okay. Neither a camel or a rope. Ropes were made from camel hair, and which was translated of camel in the allegory of the eye of a needle. So now, if you see through all this explanation, you understand that the rope in this case, the camel in this case was basically the rope that was made from a hair of a camel. So it's literally like a hair can go through a needle. So that's the meaning. And can you imagine like Hebrew, you still know that people speak Hebrew, but Aramaic, that was like his like first language, his original language. It's really rare people that speak the language nowadays. And the missing words to explain and to teach people through this language, it's very hard because you have like a huge vocabulary that we can use, but with Aramaic, you're gonna use maybe like one word to explain 20 different words. So can you imagine the misinterpretation people have? So what is good about when Allan Kardec tried to explain all the gospel is he not only used the spiritual help, but most important, he he looked for professional people that time, so then he can explain and give us the most best interpretation out of the gospel for the Spiritist world. Other aspects we must consider: the customs and characters of people, the environment in which Jesus lived. One is exposed to errors regarding the significance of certain expressions and certain events, and the interpretation. A strictly literal translation does not always express a thought precisely. And in order to be exact, one must sometimes use equivalents or paraphrases rather than cognates. So the essence of Jesus' teachings is basically love and charity to others, which are the base of his teachings. And the Christ's lesson is we should not only love, but honor our father and mother. So that's why this chapter name is Strange Morals, because when Luke says in the beginning that you have to, like, for you to follow me, like being Jesus, you have to hate your mother and father and sister and brother. that doesn't connect with his teaching that is through the whole gospel he tried to give us. But this is all interpretation. And one of like I said, one of the lectures I was watching was Haroldo in a group of studying, saying that, like, listen, for you to sit and studying the gospel is not only you to read Allan Kardec gospel. With that, first you have to have a dictionary close to you, because it was written in 1860 something. So by that time to now, how many transformations the language passed through it. And sometimes even for us that speak like perfectly Portuguese, or even like sometimes English, there's a lot of hard words there, like difficult words, so you can understand. So sometimes, me particularly, I have to look up on the dictionary and say, like, did I really understand that, or is just because this word is like it's not usual, and they're like, I have no idea if it's the same meaning if I know exactly the meaning of that word. And yeah, and basically, like, also he said, like, we cannot accept everything that everyone, it's not because I'm saying these teachings means this and this and that. It's just because I conclude myself, I did a research, and I know that what does that mean. But if you don't believe, you go there, you research, and then you for sure can, like, ask, but just don't say yes, I understand, just because it's saying what is saying on the gospel. Always do a research. Why it's hard sometimes for us to come here and do a lecture? Because we have to study, we have to look for, and to give information, and try as much as we can to not give wrong information or misunderstood information. So we have to go through everything we are learning. And that's a good thing. It's a good point of view that Kardec trying to show us. That's one of the things that I learned for this part of this chapter. That is not because it's written like that. We cannot question what is written like that. So for you, when you're questioning, you go there and look it up, so then you can have yourself a better answer, a better explanation about that specifically teaching. And there's more things on this moral, strange moral, but like if I say more about this lecture, I'm kind of gonna break it the next part of the lecture, which will be next week. So I'll just stop right now. And it was a very simple thing to go through it, but like the main thing about this chapter is for the next week. So I don't want to start doing it, Samantha. So then you can bring to us. Any of you ladies, would you like to give or make some comment?
Yeah, so I was kind of reading a little bit about this because it's very intriguing, like you said. You know, it goes against everything we've heard about Jesus. It's kind of scary too. And one of the things that caught my attention is that when Jesus said that, there was a lot of people following him just for the bread that he was distributing. So this was he had to be more strict and tell people about the things you have to give up, you know, in honor of God and in honor to follow his steps. He gave up everything he had. So yes, the translation it's a big portion of the way the phrase was probably it was probably written in a different way, and then the translation doesn't help. But I think if we think about the fact that not hating, but pretty much putting God above everything.
Yeah, it's a little bit of like the transformation, but like I said, if I start talking about the transformation of yourself, of your inner, you know, I'm gonna kind of break it and like next Tuesday, you know,
Mhm.
Samantha is gonna say about the same thing a little bit, you know. So just like I'm gonna keep on this translation thing, and then maybe you can discuss like in the end how it would be working,
Yeah,
you know. But it's basically like what he starts saying in the next part of this chapter is about your own transformation. It's not about hating anyone. You can't hate nobody. Like Jesus never came here to say you have to hate people, but he always tried to propose a transformation of your own life.
right. And that's what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Louisa, do you have?
Okay.
I was wondering who did this lecture. I almost asked in a group who did this lecture last time because it was a little bit hard to find some things to be based on.
Well, I don't know if it was Carol or Swelling. I did
Yeah.
the one that it's about. I did not. I don't know how to say this in English, but I'm here not to bring the fada, but the peace.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, but it's hard. It's a lot of sentences that's a lot of misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
So it's now the next chapter is very challenge.
Yeah. Oh, and there's one example that I think I mentioned before, but like I don't know if you guys. I think you guys know my sister-in-law. She lives in Israel, so she speaks Hebrew fluently. And one day we were talking about the language, and she said that, for example, there's no word for a cereal bar. There's no such a thing there. So there's only one word you can use that means snack. And this snack you can be used for a lot of things. You can use for a cereal bar, for like a real snack that you're eating, or for like a piece of cheese, you know. But like there's no word for cereal bar. So if they still talk a language that is still very low on vocabulary, can you imagine like on that time? And I always think that is a good example for us to be based that like it's not because it's written there and they're like they're apostles trying to say something, like year by year it passed, and then people can interpret, and like because of the language they can understand or translate in a different, like if you translate in a slightly way, even if you put like an extra comma, we know that can give a lot of difference about the context.
That's a very good example, actually.
Right. And that's funny because I'm really trying to learn Hebrew, and like it's very hard, but they don't have a lot of vocabulary. So at the same time you can learn fast, but it's very hard to learn. So I imagine that for Aramaic, that was his original language, it's supposed to be like way harder. Yeah, and that's it. It's a very small, like I feel bad because it's a very small lecture, you know, but like it just bring us a little bit of curiosity, and to remind us that like we always have to be researching and not believe, and not only not believe but always be interested on looking for more information every time we are trying to study something about Jesus teachings.
Well, very small but very important lesson. When you first showed the first slide, I was a little bit concerned of where this is going, and then I understood. So it's up to us now to do our research, but very, very interesting topic for sure.
Yes, the topic, the
Yeah.
title, yes. So when I read, I said, "Oh my gosh, this is." I wanna see. I wanna watch this. Yeah.
Yeah, ladies,
Thank
that
you.
was it. And then yeah, it was nice. So I'm gonna do the final prayer, okay? And or otherwise, if somebody wants to do it, or no, I'll do it.
I can do it.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and close our eyes, elevate our thoughts, Let's feel the spiritual friends that are around us right now. Let's feel the love. Let's feel the harmony. Let's feel the peace around us. Let's ask Jesus to continue giving us guidance, to open our eyes, so we might find the lessons that are hidden through the difficult times that we go through. Let's ask Jesus that we be honored to follow his steps all the way through, that we can accomplish on this incarnation everything that we had programmed to us for this life. And then if we fall, that we get up and we continue with the help, always with the help of our spiritual friends. Thank you to everyone that is listening to this lesson, and so be it.
So be it.